When you can marry your passion and purpose in the direction of helping a large majority of people achieve societal excellence, then you've truly found your calling. For Clint Pulver, he's a man of many talents. He's a keynote speaker, author, musician, pilot, and workplace expert, known as the leading authority on employee retention. Clint has transformed the way corporations such as Keller Williams, AT&T, and Hewlett Packard create lasting loyalty through his research and work as the Undercover Millennial. He joined me this week to tell me more about his work and how he's carving pathways for corporations and individuals to have lasting success in the workforce. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. LA to Utah, but if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the show, Clint, and I'm excited to learn all about employee retention and engagement this afternoon with you. Great to see you, and thanks so much for being here this afternoon.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, Clint, just before we dive into our conversation, I don't know if you knew this, but March is International Women's History Month, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on what women mean to you and the impact they've had in your life.
They have been a significant role in my life and continually will be forever. I have a beautiful mother that I love very much. I also have a beautiful wife that is the heart of my life. I deem so much of my success because of the good women in my life.
Absolutely. And since you are the employee engagement expert, I'm sure you knew this, but yesterday was Equal Pay Day for women. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how we continue to promote equal pay and treatment of women in the workplace.
I think that everybody needs to have an opportunity at work where they can actually thrive, not just survive. Where they can have a place where they feel like they're equally heard, seen, and valued and understood. And workplaces are understanding the importance of doing that. And if they don't, they lose people. They lose men and women and great employees that will go and grow somewhere else. And so it's a universal thing that I think we need more of in this country. We need more of this in the world. We need more good workplaces where people can actually do what they love. They can actually have a sense of purpose, but they also have the ability to provide for a way that's sufficient for them. And it's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about employee retention, I know that you are the leading authority on employee retention. So I'm curious to also get your thoughts on how we diversify the workplace in terms of making sure that individuals with disabilities are fully represented as well.
One of the coolest things that I had ever seen in my research, Kevin. So for the last 5 years, I have worked as the undercover millennial. So I would go undercover into organizations as a millennial who was looking for a job. So I would walk up to an employee and say, "Hey, what's it like to work here? I'm thinking about applying." And they would tell me what it was like because I wasn't a survey. I wasn't another manager. I was just an employee. And one of the coolest things that I had ever seen is when the manager had a heart to bring in somebody with the disability. Because here's the thing, Kevin, we all have disabilities. That is one thing I learned. We all have disabilities. Some are just more visible than others, right? And when we created environments where all types of people with all types of disabilities could thrive, they could come into the work environment and have an opportunity to give, but also to enhance a culture and to create better connectivity and unity and support and advocacy for each other. it was a beautiful thing to watch when managers and leaders created an environment where all people with all disabilities could thrive.
And if you had a magic wand, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how workplace diversification would work for all people of all abilities, regardless of race, religion, or experience level.
Yeah, I think it's remembering that people are people and that we treat people as individuals. And every employee I learned, they're always asking, let me know when it gets to the part about me. Let me know that your idea and your mission statement or your meeting agenda, let me know when that considers me. And I think that's how we bring more inclusion, more diversity, more acceptance, and understanding that we can create a workplace that gets to the part about individuals. And that takes time. That takes a lot of listening. That takes a lot of understanding. That takes a lot of patience. That takes time. But in doing so, we create effort that compounds over time to create a workplace where people actually thrive. They feel included. They feel seen. They feel heard. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on your work as the undercover millennial. What's the most impactful thing that you've experienced through your research, and how has it personally affected you?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things that I saw is when an employee hated their job, they talked about the manager. But when an employee loved their job, they talked about the mentor. Mentorship versus management was a critical factor because a mentor is not necessarily a leader. A mentor is someone who connects people to their dreams. If you look at any great story, I don't know, Kevin, if you're like a big movie buff, but any great movie, you always have the hero in the story and they're trying to overcome something difficult. But then who appears in the story? The mentor, right? Luke Skywalker had Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Rocky,
Absolutely.
yeah, Rocky had Mick. Frodo had Gandalf. Aladdin had the genie. They had these great mentors that connected them to their dreams. And that was one of the coolest things to see is when a leader became a mentor, not just a manager. And they always possessed 5 C's. I call these the 5 C's of mentorship. And if someone became a mentor, they possess these 5 characteristics. And the first one is confidence. That manager had confidence in who they were and their ability to help other people get to where they wanted to go. Confidence builds trust. The second C is credibility. What's your background? What's your history? Right? You might be a car sales manager, but have you ever sold a car before? I want to know your history. The next C is competence. They were competent in their ability to help somebody. They were a practitioner, not just a theorist. They were somebody that was actually practicing what they were preaching. The fourth C is candor. They had the ability, Kevin, to create relationships so strong that honesty could exist. I want a mentor with someone who's going to be honest with me. And then the last C is the ability to care, to truly care about an individual, to care about their needs, their goals, their dreams. The moment we stop caring for people is the moment we fail as a mentor. No significant loyalty ever happens without significant connection. And so when we care for those people, we create a stronger connection. So those 5 C's, confidence, credibility, competence, candor, and the ability to care were essential in creating lasting mentorship.
And Clint, I'm glad you brought that up because I live my life through a model that goes something like that. That inclusion is the gateway to independence, and I'm wondering your thoughts on the importance of uh, mentorship in terms of making connections at the earliest ages of possible so that you can be successful in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that again, we all have had really good mentors. I think for the most part in our lives, like you probably had some great teachers, Kevin, in your life that were instrumental for you, or you've had a coach, or you've had a parent, or you've had somebody that was there for you. And we never forget those people. Like Kevin, I was the kid in school. I had a hard time sitting still. I had this disability of I would tap. I would move a lot. My hands would just fidget and I would tap on my desk. And everybody saw that as an issue, like it was a problem. And I got sent to the principal's office. I was constantly teased. A lot of kids called me the twitcher. I got called the tapper. And one day I had a teacher and his name was Mr. Jensen. And he told me to stay after class and he said, "Young man, we're going to have a conversation." And the bell rang, everybody left, and it was just me and Mr. Jensen. And he said, "Listen, I know everybody sees the problems. They see your inability to sit still." He said, "But I've watched you. You'll sit there and you'll be in your class and you'll be doing an assignment and you'll write with your right hand and then you'll tap with your left hand. And then you can switch the pen. Then you'll start writing with your left hand and you'll tap with your right hand." He said, "Clint, I think you're ambidextrous." And I was like, "No, I'm Presbyterian." He said, "No." He said, "That's not what it means. No, no, no." He said, "Can you tap your head and then rub your belly?" And I could do it. I could do it so well. And he said that, "Then can you rub your head and then tap your belly?" And literally back and forth without thinking about it, Kevin, I could do it. And he leaned forward and he smiled and he looked at me and he said, "I don't think you're a problem. I just think you're a drummer."
Well, it's always good to have teachers as role models, and I know that music is a big part of your life, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm also curious to know about your book, your new book that you've published called "Love It Here: How Great Leaders Create Organizations Their People Never Want to Leave." So can you tell me about your book and the motivation behind it?
Yes. So I wrote the book based off of my research as the Undercover Millennial. And it's a book written by 10,000 employees who knew when their leaders were getting it right. And it's the employee experience of what good leadership looked and felt like to them. And when I would ask an employee, "What's it like to work here?" And they would respond with, "I love it here." And the reasons why. Why? What were great leaders doing to create a workplace environment where people said, "I love it here. I love who I am while I'm here." And the book releases April 13th all over the world. And again, it's titled "I Love It Here." You can pre-order it on Amazon. And it is my research as the Undercover Millennial and the stories behind how great leaders created organizations where people could thrive, not just survive.
Absolutely. And I know you also have created the mentorship effect. And while some leaders create lasting legacies of loyalties, and others don't. So could you expand on that for me?
Yeah, I think it comes back again to being the mentor. If we can attribute specific qualities of mentorship and give people a reason to follow us, the more impactful we will become. So mentorship is a key thing that I think we need more of in our leadership.
And I know that you've appeared on America's Got Talent and in some movies as well, and you have a love of music as well. So I'm wondering if we can dive a little bit into your personal life and how you reconnect with your passions as well.
Yeah, so if you remember the story about Mr. Jensen, he in that moment he opened up his desk and he opened up his top drawer and he reached inside and he took out my very first pair of drumsticks and he put them in my hands and he said, "I don't think you're a problem. I just think you're a drummer." And that changed my life, Kevin. And I for the 22 years I've been a professional drummer and I've toured and recorded all over the world playing the drums. And I was on America's Got Talent, playing the drums. I graduated college with zero college debt from music scholarships. And that was all because I had drumsticks in my hands. And so music has been a great outlet for me. Uh, Sitting down and playing the drums is a lot cheaper than therapy. And it's been a great stress outlet for me. And I love that instrument.
And Clint, I'm curious to get your thoughts on what do you think will be future emerging trends when we look at employee retention and engagement?
I think there's going to be more sensitivity around having conversations and treating employees as individuals, not as a generation. A lot of people kind of, it's a marketing ploy to say, oh, the millennial generation, you've got to treat everybody this way. Or, well, we've got to treat Gen Z this way because that's just who they are. There is no quick hack to understanding individuals. We cannot stereotype somebody based off of their age and say, because you were born this year at this time, that you fit this demographic. That's not true. And we need to focus again more on individuals and creating individual connection. And when we listen and we ask and we're willing to take action to create a better experience for the person, not the generation, that's when we become more significant, not just successful.
Yeah, and based off that, Andrew, I'll follow up with this. I'm curious also to know your thoughts on the value of human connection and how we'll appreciate that more once the pandemic is over.
I think that employees, I've seen this because we've done some undercover research during the pandemic, and it's been saddening to see how some leaders treated employees during this time. But it's also been extremely beautiful to see how other leaders have treated employees during this time. I think as we come out of this, people are going to remember how they were treated during COVID-19. I think they will also, we've all had time to think, right? Our jobs have been disrupted, life has been disrupted, and we've had time to think. I mean, Kevin, you created this whole podcast because you had some time. You had some time to think and recreate and do some different things. And I think we're going to see that. And we valued specific things differently because of the chaos. And so I think we will come out of this with a new perspective. I think appreciating certain things more than we would have before the pandemic, and hopefully hopeful, right? I look back at this time and I've created stronger relationships because of this. I will be a different person because of this. We have different business offerings, different value adds because of this chaos. So it's been really neat to see opportunities, not just problems, because of the pandemic.
And Clint, I'm curious to know, if I hired an autobiographer to write the story of your life, what do you think you would want the content to be consistent of, and what do you think the title of your life story would be?
I would say it's not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best for the world. How to live a life of significance, not just a life of success.
Fantastic. And if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that, Bud?
Yeah, they can find me at clintpulver.com on my website. And then also just check out the book on Amazon. They can pre-order the book, type in "I love it" here. It's available on all book platforms.
Clint, I really want to thank you for being here today to discuss employee engagement, retention, and inclusion. Really enjoyed our conversation, and I want to thank you for allowing me to virtually travel to Utah. It's most appreciated, buddy.
You're very welcome. If you ever make it out this way, you let me know.
Well, I got a snowboard and ski buddy, right?
Yeah, you just let me know.
Absolutely. Have a great day, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.